McCormack-Morrison is going to be one of the greatest stars, and he's going to ride all the way to the election like a famous Western. And, well, you know, Big Mac and ScoMo, Big Mo. So, no, I'm not. I'm just surprised at everybody else. And, of course, you read it and try and decipher what you think's behind it and who's behind it. But I've got no hope.
So do you think it's total nonsense?
Well, you've got to ask the person who wrote it, and it's not me. So find out. But I don't think it's going to upset the McCormack-Morrison patter. I think that McCormack-Morrison is going to go to the election.
Big Mac and ScoMo, Big Mo. Joining me now, National Senator Matt Canavan. Over to you, Senator. What do you make of it all?
Well, I just heard Barnaby's comments there, and they're pretty similar to mine own. I thought the article was strange that on those issues you mentioned, live cattle, regional airport funding, borders as well, they're all areas that the Nationals have had great victories in recently. So, I mean, ever since we had the decision made back in early February on the leadership, I've just been focused on outcomes and I fought very hard to ensure that our live cattle industry was properly compensated from that terrible decision by the then Labor government. I fought very hard with my Nationals colleagues on issues like regional airport funding and border closures. And today, again, we've got another victory on university reforms as well. So they're all things that have been delivered under the leadership of Morrison and McCormack, and that's what I'm supporting now. So we get on with those outcomes.
Yeah, but have those victories come about through him, or have they come about through the work of yourself and David Littleproud and Bridget McKenzie? I mean, the allegation is that he's not doing enough for the base.
They've come about through a team, and everyone's got a role to play in that team, and no one's disputing the outcomes we've got. So when a football team is winning games on the field, you don't change your captain, your coach, and we are winning games. So that's what I'm going to continue to be focused on, and not on who's playing which position.
Okay, so just to be clear, will there be a strike before Christmas?
I can't see that happening. I do think that the leadership being shown by Scott Morrison and Michael McCormack through the coronavirus, but in dealing with a raft of other issues, has been a stellar one, and I can't see that changing before the election.
Can't see it, but it might.
Well, I mean, I can't rule. I'm not Nostradamus, and I've learnt pretty quickly over the last 10 years or so I've been involved in Australian politics. Don't make predictions, but as I say, I can only call it as I see it.
Well, you supported Barnaby Joyce last night. In fact, you resigned from Cabinet. You must surely want to get back into Cabinet.
Not last night. I think it was a few months ago.
No, I said last time. Last time.
Last time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said last night.
No.
It's been lots happened since then. Look, of course I did. I wanted to see strong leadership because I think that's desperately what we need in regional Australia to fight back against particularly green activism that is destroying so many of our industries and jobs and livelihoods. Now, on some of those issues, Michael's been part of a team that stepped up. So that's what I want to see. We've got more fights ahead, though, that's for sure. We've achieved that coal-fired power funding as well. It's another thing I've been fighting for the last few months. That's got across the line. We might have a vote on that in the Senate the next couple of weeks. We'll have to defeat. So the battle for jobs in our rural areas of the country never ceases, and that's what I'm focused on.
Does Michael McCormack have your full support?
He has the support of every member of the Nationals party room because he is the elected leader of the party room.
But of you? Does he have your support?
He's got my support as the leader of the Nationals party room, absolutely.
Is he the right man to lead the party?
I think it's the right team we've got in place to lead the party to the election. As I said, the leadership's been shown by the Australian government through this global pandemic has been second to none. And that's what we've got to continue doing now for the Australian people. If we do a good job, I'm sure we'll get re-elected.
The right team? Is he the right leader?
Yeah, I think everybody's in the right spot as we've got. And as I said, I fully expect the leadership team and the Nationals team to see this through the election. I think if we continue to focus on those real outcomes and deliver results for the Australian people, then when it comes to report card time, we'll get another term.
Okay, just a few quick ones, which we were going to talk about before this breaking news started happening, Senator. You've got the business community now that's trying to put pressure on the premiers and the Prime Minister as well to get those borders open up again. We've talked a lot about this in recent weeks. What's your view of this letter? And let's go to the Queensland Premier again. You know, there's only 18 active cases of COVID in Queensland at the moment, and only 3 in New South Wales, 3 new cases yesterday. It's time to start having that debate again.
Well, I certainly support this call for some detailed guidelines on what will and won't happen in terms of border closures and in terms of all other restrictions, if you like, around masks and broader lockdown measures. Obviously, when the Victorian outbreak happened, a little bit surprisingly, there was some reactions had to be on the fly. But I really think there is a real need now for certainty for Australian businesses. So we clearly define when and if certain measures are going to be taken. Because I think there has been a trend in the last few months to governments, especially governments facing re-election, to politicise the responses from the pandemic. And no one wants to see border closures based on politics. They want them seen as based on a response to a public health crisis. But I definitely think the Premier, you can see it in some of her comments in Queensland, is slipping into the politics rather than the pandemic. Last week's ridiculous outburst that Queensland hospitals are only for Queenslanders was just a case in point. She's backtracked from that, rightly so. But we just cannot continue to pummel business confidence like this based on politics. It should be based on the public health advice.
Well, what about the moves for people to wear masks? Mandatory in hospitals in the Brisbane area, but for people to wear masks, given that there's only 18 cases in Brisbane?
Well, I think I believe, and look, I'm only catching up this morning, but I believe the masks directive is voluntary or is encouraged, I should say.
Yeah, it's encouraged.
Across Brisbane,
correct.
In hospitals.
Yeah.
Look,
I just thought
on what should happen.
There's not many
I'm
numbers.
certainly not going to comment what should or shouldn't happen in hospitals. I'll leave that to the directors of hospitals. I don't have the knowledge of that. I think New South Wales is a bit of a template here. I think the New South Wales government's response has been a reasonable one, focusing on that testing and tracing, encouraging mask use but not mandating it. It seems to have worked, and I hope that does form a bit of a template we should learn as we go here. So I would be looking to New South Wales on how to respond to any outbreak in Queensland rather than Victoria.
Yeah, no doubt. New South Wales Health, world-class tracing team at the moment. Just further south, meanwhile, Senator, just finally, what do you make of these of the Premier's move to extend the emergency powers by 12 months?
Look, I think it's a gross grab for executive power and to avoid parliamentary scrutiny. I support governments being able to act in response to a pandemic, but I do not support them doing so without proper parliamentary accountability. By my calculations, the Victorian Parliament has sat for just 7 days since the coronavirus emerged in March, and the extraordinary powers provided to the Victorian government were for 6 months. Now, yes, there's been a second outbreak in Victoria since that time, but we know a lot more about the virus now. So to now be going back for a 12-month, basically, hiatus, 12-month holiday from parliamentary scrutiny, I think is a gross overreach by the government there. The Parliament needs to sit. That's what we're doing in Canberra, rightly so. I hope the Parliament comes back in Melbourne soon, because no government in this country should be avoiding the democratic scrutiny that can only come from a Parliament.